Toastmasters International is a public speaking club. It has been said that you cannot have better quality teaching for the money. The content of the speech, the subject, is always up to the speaker. Their opinions and their ideas. It is not the objective of Toastmasters to tell you how to think or what to think or to twist your ideas. Thank heaven, in the United States of America, there is freedom of speech. We love your different ideas. The differences, the contrast, makes us think, makes us grow, makes us contemplate a way to come together in a better unity. Toastmasters International is a magnificent organization. Toastmasters International is open to the public. You can come as a guest, you can come and watch, you can join, and you can learn how to express your opinions, your ideas, and your feelings in a professional manner. We don't tell you what to say, we teach you how to say it. Once in a while, a speaker comes here at Toastmasters and presents a speech that is really marvelous in its body language, in its presentation on all levels, and in its content. Welcome to a delightful speech from a member of Toastmasters International. Please welcome Darus Trutna.
Well, thanks, Rebecca. My name, once again, is Darus Trutna. I'm a veteran, graduate of Humboldt State University, and over the past couple years I've gotten pretty passionate about something I wanted to talk to you about, and that's the war on drugs. Now, I'm not a drug user, I'm not a police officer, I'm not involved in the war on drugs. Now, my mother did have breast cancer, and she did use medicinal marijuana, but that's not the reason I even want to talk about it. I want to talk about the negative effects of the current strategy for the war on drugs, which creates all the violence that we see on the streets and the destroyed communities. But before we get into that, I want to start with a hypothetical scenario. I've got it right here. What this is a magical button. And it says right here in fine print, push this button and 50% of all federally illegal drugs will vanish. Wow. The crack, the meth, the pot, gone. Maybe some of our pockets will be lighter. No, just kidding. Now, we all want the streets to be safer. We all want less crime, less violence. And if we push the button, half the drugs will be gone. That's the whole point of the war on drugs, to get the drugs off the street, right? I want you to remember your thoughts right now about pushing that button. Because here we go. Pop, pop. 50% of all the crops of pot in Humboldt County, the meth in someone's arm, it's gone. So 50% of the supply is gone. But the demand hasn't changed. Economic theory would say that with less supply and a flat demand, prices would go up. Well, if prices go up, behavior changes. A man in Florida on September 19, 2006 was held at gunpoint, and he was told, "It is your life or it is the tickle me Elmo." If holiday shoppers are willing to resort to violence and pepper spraying each other in order to get toys for their kids, what is a drug addict gonna do? Prices are up. They can't afford their fix. Is it possible they might go out and rob someone to get the money for their fix? Is it possible they might break into your home to sell whatever they can find to get their fix? Now let's think about the gangs and the drug cartels. 50% of the supply is vanished. Wow, prices are skyrocketing. That means that territory just became 50, 100, 200% more valuable. Is it possible that the kingpins would tell their people on the street, you get that territory, I don't care what you have to do? Is it possible we might see more violence because of this change? It's interesting, because that is the whole philosophy of the war on drugs right now. The DEA has said, our position, our strategy, is to reduce the amount of drugs on the street, so prices will increase, and drug addicts won't be able to get their fixes. That's the strategy. But it's the competition in an unregulated market, an illegal market, that causes this violence. All we have to do is look back to the 1920s. What happened in Prohibition? Well, obviously alcohol became illegal, and we saw an increase in crime, increase in violence, and the Al Capones of the world became fabulously wealthy. Shouldn't we be bothered that the Al Capones and the drug cartels of today want drugs to be illegal? Shouldn't we be troubled that through all of this war on drugs, the US has the highest drug use in the world? Shouldn't we be bothered that the US has the highest reported incarceration rate in the whole world? We have 743 out of 100,000 of our citizens locked up in jail. That's higher than Russia. That's higher than Rwanda. Shouldn't we be troubled the US has 5% of the world's population, but 23% of the world's prison population? We arrest 1.6 million people and spend $69 billion with a B dollars a year with the current war on drugs. And for what? What have we seen? Let's step back. Let's go back 100 years or so and see what progress we've made in this war on drugs. Let's go back to 1914. The federal government comes out and says 1.3% of the US population is addicted to drugs. Well, this can't stand. So what do? We make heroin more difficult to access. You had to get a license, basically, instead of just being at your local pharmacy. Okay, that's one step forward, one would say. Let's go to 1970 now. The US government has a report. 1.3% of the US population is addicted to drugs. Sounds familiar. Well, what do? We'll have a war on drugs. This is the #1 priority. It's the most pressing issue, and it's worked for everything else, right? War on poverty, war on North Korea. Okay, well, we'll forget about those wars. Let's just focus on the war on drugs right now. Okay. Let's jump to today. Since then, we've arrested millions of people for non-violent drug offenses. They're not hurting anybody. They're just using themselves. Millions of people in jail. We've lost tens of thousands of police officers, DE agents, and civilians fighting the war on drugs. We've destroyed communities. We've adjusted entire industries. And for what? Well, today, about 1.3% of the US population is addicted to drugs. The war on drugs is an absolute failure. Failure. Where can we look for a different strategy? Well, Portugal, as many other countries, was facing the same problem. We have drug use, we have crime, we have all these other problems associated with drug use. But they decided to use a different strategy. In 2001, they decriminalized all drugs for personal use. Now, all that means is that you can be caught with a small amount of any drugs on you, and you're not going to go to jail. Trafficking is still illegal, so that's covered. What they decided was, we're going to treat this as a medical issue and provide help to people instead of arresting them and incarcerating them. Well, 5 years later, the Cato Institute performed a study, and they said Portugal's drug problems have improved in every measured way. Further, Glenn Greenwald, a lawyer who performed the background research for this, told Time, judging by every metric, decriminalization in Portugal has been a resounding success. Just to give you a couple quick figures, drug use for 13 to 15-year-olds went from 14% to 10%. Drug use for 15 to 18-year-olds went from an incredible 27% down to 21%, an incredible improvement. Further, HIV infections among drug users fell. Drug-related deaths fell. There was a decrease in trafficking overall, because the demand isn't there, people are getting help. And a huge amount of money was saved by offering treatment and care instead of being arrested and long-term sentences. So obviously, decriminalizing drugs doesn't solve all the problems. It doesn't. But what we see is that it helps people get better and it reduces the crime because the profit motive isn't there anymore. They're getting help. They don't need to go out and buy it off the street illegally. And that's why I support a group called LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. These are the police officers, DE agents, lawyers, district attorneys, judges, who were on the front lines, boots on the ground, fighting the war on drugs. They saw the day-to-day. They lost friends. And they have all come out together against the war on drugs and promoting the message of decriminalization and regulation, just like Portugal has shown has been a success. They know that winning the war on drugs requires us to shift strategies and see drug use as a medical problem, not a criminal fight. As Sun Tzu said, the supreme art of war is to subdue your enemy without fighting. We can win the war on drugs, but it requires us to stop fighting the criminals and to start helping the users. We can win by legalizing and regulating drugs, and by then removing the profit motive, we can reduce crime and save lives. My friend, Garrett Benson, whom I served overseas with in the Army National Guard, was shot and murdered in his own home for some marijuana. I want you to think back to that button, to that concept of taking the drugs off the street and arresting these criminals. I want you to think back to that button. Do you want me to push the button now? I hope you'll think about it, and I hope you'll look into LEAP and other organizations that support the fight to decriminalize drugs. Because with those new philosophies and those new strategies, we can win the war on drugs. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Kimbel. I joined Toastmasters in 2005. I became area governor of Toastmasters International, and I sponsored a most remarkable new Toastmaster. Today, she is the division governor of Toastmasters International. Please welcome Ellen Johnson.
Contests are not just for winners. In Toastmasters, we come together and train on our public speaking, and we train on our leadership skills. For less than $100 a year, we can get as much education as we can stand to fit into our busy schedules these days. But Toastmasters also offers a contest opportunity twice a year, in the spring and in the fall. However, sometimes we have a little bit of trouble getting participants. Nobody wants to be competitive. Competitive has become something that's not socially acceptable and is looked down upon. And unfortunately, it keeps some people from participating because they don't know why else they would do it. Michael Phelps has lots of gold trophies around his neck. He's worked very hard to achieve great things, and he's doing very well. So if you're into swimming, and you like to swim and compete and want to get to be your best, but contests were only for winners, why would you bother getting in the pool? Why would you bother competing against Michael Phelps if you don't get anything out of it? Is it true that competition is just about winning? Is it true you won't get anything out of it? I don't think so. For me, I like to define competition as the opportunity to improve yourself and the opportunity to see what you're able to do. In public speaking, we come to Toastmasters for the opportunity to become better at speaking. And when we stand behind the lectern and we speak to our club, our first time speaking, we may have some jitters. We may say ah and a lot in the middle of our sentences. We may hold on to this lectern for dear life because we're so afraid of speaking, something we do every day. However, with practice and time, we get better and better within our clubs, just as if we were practicing at home. A contest is a little scarier. You're supposedly competing against these other people, and there's more pressure and more stress. And if you're not competitive and you're not going to win, why do it? Well, let me give you the reason. I think everybody should want to compete in a contest when they're ready. If you're still so nervous you can barely stand to be behind the lectern and you've already joined Toastmasters just for that purpose, to get over that fear, you're not necessarily ready for the contests. But what if your local club that you've gone and joined, you've started to feel comfortable with this? You've started to appreciate the opportunity to speak, and you actually get up and make complete sentences without saying ah or and your thoughts are clear. You come across to everybody in the audience. You don't miss a beat. Maybe you think you're getting pretty good. So why stop your education there? Why stop the challenge there? Sure, a contest is a little scarier, and yes, there's trophies. But I think the trophy for most improved should go to anybody and everybody who participates in contests, because it offers an opportunity for more improvement. It's another chance to speak, which every time you practice and get more time under your belt doing public speaking, the better you're going to get at it. And it also adds a different kind of stress that you maybe weren't expecting, or that maybe you were avoiding. That might be why we've had so few participants. But the contest environment adds that stress and that feeling that you had the first time you stood behind the lectern. It helps you go to the next level. It gives you that opportunity to go to the next level. I thought I was doing fine within my own club. I thought I was giving pretty decent speeches and working through my program and getting my education very well. And I had an opportunity to go to Washington and speak at another club. I could not believe how nervous I suddenly felt. I got to meet a couple of people I had spoken to over the phone in person less than 10 minutes before the meeting, and I was giving a speech to help start a new club, just as an example speech. My speech was only 7 minutes, and I worked hard preparing it. I thought I had everything ready, and I thought I was going to be just fine because I've given speeches in front of a few people in my local club, just like I was going to do there in Washington. What I found was I was so nervous beforehand. My knees were shaking, my palms were sweaty, I was very scared, and when it was over, and oh thank goodness it was over, I sat down in my chair and could not remember if I had given the speech I prepared or said something else. I had no idea what had happened while I was up there. I was so scared. That led me to realize that change in what we're doing while we're learning our public speaking is key to continual improvement. Keep taking that next step. Keep learning. You don't have to be Michael Phelps and get the trophy around your neck when you're learning from every different experience. And the contests offer opportunities to speak on different subjects and have different rules, just slightly different, but a little more challenging. And it gives you just another facet to your abilities. The other opportunity in the contests is being the judges, getting to know the criteria that everybody is supposed to speak to and how to grade them on that is an educational opportunity. As a judge, you can learn more about public speaking than if you didn't participate at all. And in Toastmasters, since you're working on your leadership and your public speaking, being a judge, being a ballot counter, being a chairman that runs the contest are all credited towards your degrees in Toastmasters. I have had the honor in Toastmasters of receiving my Distinguished Toastmaster Award. I earned it this last year. This is my Distinguished Toastmaster Award. I earned this in Toastmasters following the educational program they provide on public speaking and leadership. And being a part of the contests is not required in order to get your degree in Toastmasters. Receiving your Distinguished Toastmaster Award through Toastmasters International, you do not have to participate in the contest to get it. You, on the other hand, do have to successfully complete their educational program on public speaking as well as completing their educational program on leadership. Anyone who wants to improve their skills in leadership or in public speaking that is 18 or older can join Toastmasters in their local community. It is an international organization that offers a great deal of opportunity for growth. You do not have to be the winner of the contest to win with Toastmasters. If you want to work on your leadership skills, your public speaking skills, or even your listening skills, I'd like to invite you to join Toastmasters International. Here in Humboldt County, we have 3 clubs, and the Eel River Club meets in Fortuna at City Hall on Wednesday nights, the first Wednesday and third Wednesday of the month from 7 to 8 p.m. The second club we have in Eureka is Lunch Bunch Club. They meet on Thursdays at noon, lunchtime, from 12 to 1 at 520 E Street in Eureka. The third club we have in Eureka is Eureka Toastmasters, and they also meet at 520 E Street in Eureka from 12 to 1, but it's on the second and fourth Thursdays of the month. My name is Ellen Johnson. I'm a Distinguished Toastmaster with Toastmasters International, and I'm the VP of Membership for these 3 clubs, and I would be happy to help you join. Please feel free to come by and listen, participate, and check out all 3 clubs several times if you wish before you join.
Our guest today is Mark Bailey, and we're delighted he's here. Thank you for coming, Mark.
You're welcome.
You wanted to talk to me about Toastmasters at one time, a long time ago, telling me how good it was, and I ended up joining Toastmasters, and I've really loved it. You know, you really helped me a lot by being evaluated for me so many times I've forgotten.
Well, Toastmasters is the last of the organizations dedicated to the almost expired art of public speaking, and like everything else, there are right ways and wrong ways to do things. The neat thing about Toastmasters is that you get to find out what you did right, and if there's some things that could be done differently, you find that out too. You get the chance to practice it, and you're going to get better, no question.
Well, you've been a Toastmaster for a lot of years, a lot longer than me, so you've got a lot of polish coming from that.
Well, it's true that it does go back, I guess, to the Reagan administration, so I must be enjoying myself, or I wouldn't keep signing up.
You came from Iowa,
Right.
and you were an area governor in Toastmasters in Iowa, weren't you?
For a year, yes.
Was that fun in Iowa?
We had a big enough city that I didn't have to do a lot of traveling around to other places to function as an area governor. And so that part of it was easy, and I get to find out that not every club runs the same way, and that's okay.
I think it's kind of cool that they don't run the same way because they're like separate little businesses. They're not really a business, but you know, that whole identity that they can be molded by the people that are in them with the personalities in that club, and they do take on their own persona.
For a long time I was a member of a club that met on Tuesday mornings at 7 a.m. and that made it hard to have many women members because a lot of them had child care duties and so forth, and so this was a club that was kind of guy oriented, and we would stump each other on questions having to do with sports and politics and stuff like that, and that was enjoyable, but having women around in the club that we're in now, that's terrific.
If you wish to contact me about Toastmasters International, you can reach me at my email address, Ellen, E-L-L-E-N, Johnson, Johnsson, 999 @yahoo.com.